The second Gabriella's fingers intertwined with mine in the middle of the Denver Mall's bustling food court. The world exploded around us. A teenager's phone swung toward us like a weapon, the red recording light blinking as he shouted, "Oh my God, it's real!" And within seconds the live stream was live, our private moment broadcast to thousands, and then tens of thousands, turning our love into the city's hottest scandal before we could even pull apart. I froze, my heart hammering against my ribs as Gabriella's hand tightened in mine, her blue eyes wide with the same terror I felt. We had been so careful for months, sneaking moments in quiet corners of our lives in Denver, Colorado, where being out as a couple wasn't supposed to be a death sentence but felt like it in our conservative circles. Aspen, that's me, 25, a high school counselor who prided herself on helping kids navigate their identities, and Gabriella, my 27-year-old girlfriend, a rising star at a law firm, both of us hiding behind the facade of best friends, to protect our jobs, our families, our futures. But now, here we were, exposed in the most mundane place. A Saturday shopping trip for nothing special, just wanting to hold hands like any other couple. The crowd surged, phones flashing, whispers turning to shouts. "Is that Aspen and Gabriella? They're lesbians." Someone recognized us from local events. Gabriella yanked me toward the exit, her voice an urgent whisper, "Run, Aspen, just run." We bolted through the mall, dodging shoppers, the live streamer's voice echoing behind us as he narrated our flight. By the time we reached my car in the parking lot, my phone was exploding with notifications. The video had already hit 50,000 views, comments pouring in, "Disgusting. Burn in hell. How could they hide this?" We didn't speak on the drive to my apartment. Gabriella stared out the window, her knuckles white on the door handle, and I gripped the steering wheel, my mind racing with the what-ifs. What would my parents say? They were devout Catholics from a small town outside Denver, still hoping I'd settle down with a nice boy. Gabriella's family was even worse. Her father, a prominent businessman, had made it clear that any deviation from the family image would mean disownment. And our jobs? My school principal was strict on moral standards. And Gabriella's firm had conservative clients. This wasn't just embarrassment. It was the end of everything we'd built. At my apartment we collapsed on the couch. Phone silenced but the damage done. I opened the live stream replay on my laptop, watching our moment on loop. The way I smiled at Gabriella, the gentle squeeze of hands, the way her thumb brushed mine. It looked so innocent, so beautiful, but to the world it was sin. "We're screwed," Gabriella said, her voice breaking for the first time. "My boss just texted. We need to talk Monday." I pulled her into a hug, feeling the weight of our choices crashing down. We had known the risks when we fell in love 2 years ago at a mutual friend's party. The spark instant despite the dangers. But love made us reckless, and now we were paying the price. The night dragged on with calls from friends, some supportive, most shocked or distant. My best friend from college, who knew but swore secrecy, was silent. Then my mother called. "Aspen, what is this video? Tell me it's a mistake." Her voice was shrill, laced with disappointment that cut deeper than anger. I lied at first, saying it was a joke, but Gabriella shook her head, urging honesty. "No more hiding, Aspen. We can't." But I couldn't bring myself to say it yet. The internal storm raged. Was our love worth destroying our lives? The guilt of dragging Gabriella into my world of caution. The fear of losing everything. By midnight, the video had 1 million views, local news picking it up. Local women caught an intimate moment at mall livestream sparks outrage. Our faces blurred in some reports, but not enough. We stayed up, planning damage control, but deep down, I knew this was only the beginning of the nightmare. The choices we'd made in secret were now public, and the cost was just starting to reveal itself. I watched Gabriella pace the living room, her lawyer brain already calculating angles, denial, spin, anything to salvage her career, while my own mind kept replaying every stolen kiss, every whispered promise that now felt like a betrayal of the people who raised us. Sleep never came that night. Instead, we sat in silence, hands linked again, but this time out of desperation. The city outside our window suddenly feeling like an enemy camp. By morning, the comments had turned personal. Someone from my school had tagged the district office. Gabriella's father had left a voicemail that simply said, "Call me now." The pressure was building, and neither of us knew if we were strong enough to face it without cracking. Morning light filtered through the blinds, but it brought no relief. Gabriella's phone rang first. Her sister, Maria, the one we'd always trusted with our secret. "Gabby, Dad saw the video. He's furious. He wants you home today." Gabriella's face paled as she put the call on speaker. Maria's voice cracked with worry, but underneath was judgment. "You know how he is about the family name. The firm's clients are calling already." I sat there, coffee growing cold in my hands, feeling like an intruder in my own life. This was the consequence of our decision to keep loving each other in a world that demanded we pretend. Gabriella hung up and turned to me, eyes red. "Aspen, I have to go. If I don't face him now, he'll come here." I nodded, but inside I was screaming. We had promised each other that if this day ever came, we'd stand together. Yet here she was, already pulled back toward the life she was supposed to live. I drove her to her parents' sprawling house in Cherry Creek, the upscale neighborhood where image mattered more than truth. The driveway felt like a battlefield. Gabriella's father met us at the door, his face a mask of controlled rage. "Inside. Both of you. No hello, no questions, just commands." Her mother hovered in the background, tears streaming, whispering prayers. "This is not who we raised you to be, Gabriella. Think of your future, your brothers, the business." The words hit like stones. I stood silent, my role reduced to the outsider who had corrupted their daughter. Gabriella tried to explain, her voice steady at first, the lawyer in her rising. "Dad, this isn't a phase. Aspen and I are in love. We've been together for 2 years." The confession hung in the air, heavy and irreversible. Her father slammed his fist on the table. "Love? This is a choice that destroys everything I've built. End it or you're out of the will, out of the family." Gabriella's eyes met mine across the room, and for a split second I saw the doubt flicker, the same doubt that had haunted me since the live stream dropped. We left without resolution, the drive back silent except for Gabriella's quiet sobs. Back at my apartment, my own family storm hit. My mother arrived unannounced, her rosary clutched like a shield. "Aspen Marie, how could you do this to us? The church, the neighbors, they're all calling. Your father won't even speak." She listed every sacrifice they'd made for my education, my job, painting our love as the ultimate betrayal. I tried to defend us, explaining how hiding had eaten me alive, how Gabriella made me feel seen for the first time. But my mother only shook her head. "This isn't you. It's a mistake. Fix it before it's too late." The guilt twisted deeper. Was I selfish for choosing honesty over their peace? Gabriella returned from a frantic call with her boss, suspended pending review. The firm couldn't afford the optics. We sat on the floor that evening, surrounded by our phones buzzing with hate and a few desperate supporters, realizing the social fabric was unraveling thread by thread. Friends who once invited us to barbecues now posted vague Bible verses. My principal emailed, "We need to discuss your role with students." The pressure mounted, forcing us to confront the first real choice. Fight publicly or retreat into lies. Gabriella whispered. "Maybe we say it was a prank." But I knew that would kill us slowly. The internal war had begun, and every decision carried a price we hadn't calculated. The days blurred into a nightmare of confrontations. Gabriella's firm scheduled a mediation meeting, but it felt more like an interrogation. I waited outside the glass building, watching through the windows as her partners leaned in, voices raised. When she emerged, her face was ashen. "They want me to issue a statement distancing myself. Say it was a misunderstanding." The betrayal stung, not from strangers, but from the people she'd given years to. We argued that night, the first real fight since the exposure. "Aspen, my career is on the line. Yours too. Can't we bend just a little?" Her words cut because I understood the fear. My school board had called an emergency meeting, parents demanding I be removed from counseling LGBTQ+ youth. The irony burned. I had helped so many kids accept themselves, yet now I was the cautionary tale. We drove to a quiet park to escape the city noise, but even there, a jogger recognized us and pulled out her phone. No escape. Then the first real betrayal hit. My brother Derek posted on social media a long rant about family values and how I'd shamed the family name. He tagged local news outlets, turning private pain into public ammunition. I confronted him over the phone, voice shaking. "Derek, why? You knew about us." His response was cold. Mom and Dad are devastated. Someone had to stand up. The family fracture widened, leaving me isolated. Gabriella's sister Maria showed up at my door next. Not with support but with an ultimatum from their father. Attend family counseling or lose all contact. Gabriella wavered. The pull of blood stronger than she admitted. Aspen, maybe one session won't hurt. I saw the conflict tearing her apart. The daughter who wanted approval versus the woman who loved me. We agreed to go, but it backfired. The counselor pushed conversion talk disguised as exploring options, and Gabriella stormed out, but not before her father praised her for trying. The damage was done. Doubt had seeded deeper. Social media turned vicious. Hashtags trended locally. Mall scandal and worse. Strangers doxed our addresses. I lost sleep replaying every choice that led here, the first date, the decision to stay closeted, the hand-holding that felt so harmless. Gabriella withdrew into work files, burying pain in briefs she might never deliver. We clung to each other in the quiet hours, but the trust was fracturing under external weight. A supportive colleague from my school reached out privately. The board is split, but the backlash is real. Maybe take leave. The suggestion felt like surrender. That night, Gabriella admitted her fear. If I lose my job, my family, what do I have left? The question hung between us, forcing the next decision: publicly affirm our relationship or let the world define it. We chose the former, drafting a short joint statement for the local paper. But as I hit send, I wondered if courage was just another word for destruction. The backlash would escalate, and the moral line we crossed felt both right and ruinous. Our statement ran in the Denver Post the next morning. We are two women in love who never meant to hurt anyone. We ask for privacy as we navigate this. It was meant to humanize us, but it ignited a firestorm. Conservative groups picketed my school, demanding my resignation. Gabriella's firm fired her outright, citing reputational risk. The call came while we were grocery shopping. She dropped her basket in the aisle, tears silent. I held her there among the strangers who now stared. The price of our honesty exacted in real time. We drove home in stunned silence, the weight of unemployment settling like lead. My own principal offered unpaid leave for reflection, but we both knew it was the beginning of the end. The internal voices grew louder. Was this the cost of authenticity? Or had we been naive to think love could conquer prejudice? Betrayal struck again from an unexpected place. Gabriella's closest colleague, someone she'd mentored, leaked old emails to the press, innocent check-ins that were twisted into proof of inappropriate workplace behavior. The article painted Gabriella as reckless, dragging me down with her. How could she? Gabriella whispered, scrolling the story on her laptop. The colleague later texted, "It was for the firm's sake." The knife twisted deeper, exposing how even allies could turn when society demanded conformity. My family followed suit. My mother canceled our weekly calls, saying the church group had prayed for us and now expected change. The isolation closed in. We spent days in the apartment, job hunting in a market that suddenly saw us as toxic. Gabriella's savings would last months, mine less. The moral dilemma sharpened. Deny the relationship publicly for a chance at normalcy, or double down and risk everything. Gabriella suggested therapy again, this time real couples counseling, but I resisted, fearing it would erode us further. One evening, a knock brought my father. He didn't yell. He just looked tired. "Aspen, your mother is sick over this. Come home, say it was a phase. We'll support you through it." The offer dangled like mercy, but accepting meant erasing Gabriella. I refused, watching his shoulders slump as he left. Gabriella watched from the doorway, her face a mask of pain. "You chose me over them." Her words carried gratitude and guilt. We talked late into the night about the trade-offs. Family for love, career for truth. The awakening began there, small but real. We weren't just victims. We had chosen this path knowingly. Yet the cost mounted. Hate mail filled our inbox, a brick thrown through our window overnight. Police dismissed it as a prank. The tension escalated, forcing us to decide our next stand. Gabriella applied for jobs out of state, but I hesitated, tied to the life we'd built here. The controversy had stripped us bare, and the question of whether we could rebuild together loomed larger than ever. Weeks turned into a pressure cooker. Gabriella landed a freelance consulting gig, barely enough to cover rent, while I tutored online under a fake name to avoid the boycott. The city gossip lingered. Every outing brought stares or whispers. Then came the climax confrontation we couldn't avoid. Gabriella's father summoned us to a family dinner under the guise of reconciliation. We went, hoping for peace, but it was an ambush. Her brothers sat stone-faced as he presented a contract. Sign over inheritance rights and agree to family-approved counseling, or be cut off forever. This ends now, he said, sliding the papers across the table. Gabriella's hand trembled in mine under the table. I saw the war in her eyes. Loyalty to blood versus the woman she loved. Dad, I can't, she finally said, voice steady but breaking inside. The room erupted. Accusations flew. Selfish, ungrateful, sinful. Maria, her sister, turned on us too. You've ruined everything for a fling. The betrayal from within the family shattered Gabriella. We left amid shouts, the doors slamming like a final verdict. That night, Gabriella broke down in a way I'd never seen. I lost my family for us, Aspen. Was it right? Her question mirrored my own doubts. We had traded security for each other. But the emotional toll was devastating. I held her, replaying every decision. The mall moment that started it, the statement that amplified it, the refusals that sealed it. Friends who remained urged us to move, start over anonymously. But running felt like defeat. Instead, we chose one last public act. A small interview with a local LGBTQ+ outlet, sharing our story not for sympathy but for the kids I used to counsel. The decision sparked fresh outrage, but also quiet support from strangers who messaged, "You gave me courage." The internal shift happened slowly. I realized hiding had been the real prison. Exposure, though painful, forced us to own our truth. Gabriella found strength too, landing a pro bono case defending a discriminated teen. The awakening wasn't dramatic. It was the quiet decision to keep loving despite the wreckage. Yet the costs piled up. My school terminated me officially. Gabriella's mother sent a letter severing ties. We packed boxes for a cheaper apartment across town, symbolizing the reset. Confrontations with former colleagues left scars, but each one taught us resilience. The moral gray areas blurred. Right to love, wrong to hurt family? We debated it endlessly. The tension peaking in arguments that ended in tears but always with reconciliation. Standing together became our only anchor. As the viral storm finally quieted to background noise, we faced the final choice. Stay in Denver and fight the stigma, or leave for a fresh start. We chose to stay, believing the city that exposed us could also redeem us. The drama had forged us, but the price was etched in every lost relationship, every sleepless night. Months later, the dust had settled into a new normal, fragile but ours. We found small jobs. Gabriella at a nonprofit legal aid clinic. Me tutoring at a community center that welcomed authenticity. The city still remembered the mall livestream, but whispers had turned to occasional nods of recognition rather than disgust. Yet the scars remained. Gabriella's family sent Christmas cards with no return address. A hollow gesture that reopened wounds. My parents invited me to dinner alone, pointedly excluding her, testing if I'd choose them over us. I declined, the decision costing me their approval forever. Internal conflicts lingered in quiet moments. Nights when Gabriella stared at old family photos, or when I questioned if our love had demanded too high a toll from everyone involved. We had betrayed expectations, traded stability for truth, and awakened to a harder but freer life. Friends who betrayed us faded into memory, replaced by a small circle who saw us as we were. One evening, walking the same mall, now a symbol of our beginning, we held hands openly, no longer flinching at glances. The act felt defiant and healing, but the journey had changed us. Gabriella admitted the doubt that once nearly broke her. I almost chose safety over you. My own awakening echoed. The price of silence had been our souls. We rebuilt slowly, decision by decision, proving that love's cost was steep but its reward the only one worth paying. The controversy had forced every character, families, friends, us, to face their truths, revealing how prejudice warped choices and how resilience rewrote endings. As we sat on a bench where it all started, the city lights blurring around us, I realized the real battle wasn't the exposure but what came after. The courage to live openly despite the losses. In the end was choosing to hold on to each other through the betrayal, the pressure, And the pain the right decision, or did it destroy more lives than it saved?